Sweet story it is, but it's a sweet story that began in a great pool of sorrow. About 6 years ago, Grand Chief Stan Beardy, who is Grand Chief of the Nishnawbe Aski Nation, which comprises the Aboriginal residents of pretty much the northern 2/3 of Ontario, received news that his 19-year-old son, Daniel, star junior A hockey player, goalie, had been murdered. And this is where this story begins. And I want to welcome you, Grand Chief. Do I call you Grand Chief? Do I call you Stan?
Oh, you can call me Stan.
Call you
Yes.
Stan. And you also have with you Brayden Pelletier, and he will factor into this story in a moment. Welcome, Brayden. Nice to have you here. But tell us about that moment when you heard that your son had been murdered.
Well, what happened was that it was a Saturday morning, and I was just ready to go up to one of the northern communities, Muskrat, is actually where I'm from, and I was ready to go home that morning. About 9 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang, and one of Daniel's friends said, Daniel's been hurt really bad. He's at the regional hospital. And they told me when I got to the hospital, my wife was in Muskrat, so I called her, and I said, Daniel's been hurt. We had only one child, we had only one son. So when I got to the hospital, the doctor told me that it was very serious. And I called my wife again and asked her to come out as soon as she can to come and see our son. And then he was in the hospital for about 24 hours, and there was nothing that the doctors can do for him, so the doctors told us that they have to disconnect him from life support.
Now, was he conscious during this 24 hours?
No, he never regained consciousness at all.
Was he shot, stabbed, beat?
No, he was beaten about the head. We don't know exactly how many people, but he was beaten about the head.
And what do you know about the circumstances of his death? Why? Who? For what reason?
There was never any real reason given. It just happened outside the city of Thunder Bay. I think young people were getting together, and then he just ran into somebody that he had a conflict with.
Now, did they determine who it was who had done this, and did they imprison him?
No, what happened was that they charged one person with manslaughter. We went through the trial, but he was found not guilty.
So in a sense, you've never had any closure.
Well, from that perspective, from the legal perspective, there was no real closure. But for us, for myself and my wife to carry on, we had to leave that aside and look forward to the future.
And so you forgave.
Yes, because without forgiveness, there is no future. We realize that in order for us to begin to heal, that we have to forgive the people that killed our son.
Without forgiveness, there's no closure. With forgiveness, there is closure, isn't there?
Exactly, because with forgiveness, the healing starts. Then we can begin to deal with the pain that was in us when we lost our son.
Now, you were in the hospital. Your son was still on life support, I think, or he... Tell us how Brayden came into the picture.
Brayden came about, we were at the intensive care unit in Thunder Bay Hospital. Then I remember the doctor had just told us there was no hope for our son, that the injuries were too intensive for any help for him. And the doctor had just told us, we were sitting there, my wife and myself, by our son's bedside. Then I remember all of a sudden the doors flew open, and I remember this little boy comes charging in. He had messy hair, muscle t-shirt, sandals, and shorts, and a dirty face. Comes running in there, looks around, looks at me and my wife and says, hey, what's going on here? How come people are crying? And we told him, he says, I didn't really know him. I used to see him around at the hockey games.
Right.
So we told him, he says, we just lost our son. Our son is gone. He died. Then he walks up to me, puts his little hand in my hand. He says, I'm your son now. I'm your friend. Then goes over to Nellie, my wife, and he gives her a hug. Then he was with his mom. Then he left after that.
Now, Brayden, this was you. How old were you at that time?
I think maybe 2 or 2.5.
Do you remember this? No. Has your mother told you why? Like, wasn't it you who said to her that you wanted to go up to the hospital and see the chief? Is that how that happened? Do you remember? What has his mother told?
Well, what happened was that Brayden used to watch my son play hockey all the time.
Right.
I guess all the little kids, all the native kids used to look up to my son as a model, as a hero within our culture. So Brayden, being 2.5 years old, used to watch him and followed him with his hockey. So and he recognized him. So the evening news in Thunder Bay, our son, there was a big story in Thunder Bay when we lost our son. So every evening there would be updates of what was happening, the status of Daniel being hurt. So I guess in the evening news, Brayden was watching the evening news and he saw Daniel's picture and asked his mom, "Why is Daniel on TV?" And his mom said, "Well, he's been hurt. He's at the hospital." And at that point, Brayden asked his mom that he wanted to come and see us. He wanted to go see Daniel. And that's how he arrived at the emergency at the hospital there.
So, Brayden, you've had a pretty special relationship with Grand Chief Stan Beardy for most of your life now. Tell me, what are some of the things that you and Chief Beardy do together?
Sometimes we would go to the movies. We would go to the store.
Right. Do you ever go to a hockey game together?
We don't really go to hockey games.
But you are a Montreal Canadiens fan, I hear. Does he ever take you to some of his meetings or to some of the places that he has to visit as the Grand Chief? Does he take you with him?
Sometimes.
Yeah. And so you sort of watch how a Grand Chief operates? You see how he leads people and some of the decisions he has to make? That's pretty cool, eh? Now, I hear, Brayden, that you have been given some special honor by the elders. You want to tell me about that? Like I've heard you have a few pipes, I've heard. Now, why is a pipe important?
I don't really know.
Well,
you can tell me.
Yeah, the pipes are very important. Pipes normally are earned by people like myself. I have one pipe, but that's after being a chief of 10 years, Grand Chief 10 years, 20 years in the front line. So I got a pipe from by my elders as a sign of honor, something that I've earned by committing my life to helping people. Whereas with Brayden, because of what he did and who he is, the elders on Treaty 3 and also Nishnawbe Aski Nation honored him with pipes to signify that he's somebody very important, probably more so in the future. So he's got pipes that he keeps at home as a sign of token of his of being honored.
This has got to be unusual. I mean, it's not often that an 8-year-old boy has a pipe from the elders.
Yes, because I think what the circumstances, how Brayden came to my world, to my life, is very unusual.
Yeah.
I didn't know Brayden at all. He's not related to me. He's from Fort William First Nation. I'm from Muskrat Dam, but I work out of Thunder Bay. And he came into my life because of the tragic circumstance of losing my son. And as a result of that, he's been very close to me. I travel with him. I go hunting with him. We go in the bush together. We've been across Canada. We go to many different places. I don't push him. I just hang around with him, hoping that some of the good aspects of my life, he can learn from that.
Yeah, it's called mentoring. Say, Brayden, you didn't grow up in the bush, did you? You grew up more in an urban setting. Do you like hunting and fishing?